So tonight we're studying Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, the chapter on repetition. And it's interesting how we started the chapter here. If you lose the spirit of repetition, your practice will become quite difficult. Then he said about halfway through, he said, but it will not be difficult if you are full of strength and vitality. So I was thinking about repetition, about 15 years ago, I attended a retreat, Thich Nhat Hanh retreat in southern Mississippi. There were 800 people there. And his senior nun, Sister Chan Kong, gave a guided meditation. And it was a body-centered meditation. And I was kind of taken aback by the depth of the open-heartedness of her voice and the deep peace that she was sharing with us. And she was sort of offering prayers. She went through various parts of the body, the lungs. Your lungs have been breathing 24/7 for the last series of decades. How many years? How many breaths? And then the heart, our heart has been beating for so many years, thousands, millions of heartbeats, over and over again. In our brains and our eyes, ears. It was a celebration of the wonder of having a physical body. And it got me teary, but it also put me to sleep. Because it was just so restful, there was just it was like feeling like the resistance was being drained out of me. So I'll always remember that. But I think, and then realizing, what a gift it is that we have this body. What a tragedy it is to, abuse it with ascetic practices, try to weaken it, thinking that we'll get more strength in our body, like in the first part of this chapter, he's mentioning that. But Buddha, he learned through that suffering. He learned to look deeply and to cultivate the spirit of receptivity of the nature of our essential being, which isn't confined in the physical body. The reason that teachings like the Heart Sutra came out, the teaching of emptiness, and I don't remember all the lines, but one really important one is that all things are expressions of emptiness. And then it goes on, it seems like it could be kind of life-denying, but some Zen masters really got teary from that because of the fullness of emptiness. It's the realization that things aren't perceivable or describable, but fully alive. So one master, Yasutani Roshi, really felt that. Some students were listening to him sobbing as he was reciting the Heart Sutra. And it seemed like, wow, not something that you normally would think of people would get teary about. But the spirit is real, the spirit of aliveness, the spirit of devotion, and the spirit of repetition in that speech, in that recitation. So Buddha, in his spirit of repetition, was asking himself again and again, what am I? Who am I? What is it that makes our human life possible in this moment? What is it that knows our experience? And, he had a realization of a phrase or a passage that Thich Nhat Hanh offered in one of his books. He says, reality as it is called suchness. Suchness means it is like that. You could also say thusness is another common term in Zen. He says, you cannot describe reality in terms of thoughts, especially thoughts of birth and death, being and non-being, coming and going. No word, no idea, no thought can describe reality. The reality of a table, the reality of a flower, the reality of a house, the reality of a living being, or the reality of a physical body. So the physical body, he realized, is of what Vasubandhu, one of the patriarchs, in his three natures in the Yogacara school, he said that the three natures are the dependent nature. All phenomena are dependent on each other, related, and they are. Thich Nhat Hanh says that everything is. And he called his order the order of interbeing. So that's the dependent nature. And the second one is I'm blanking on the second one. The third one is the complete realized nature. And maybe the other one will come to me. But the thing is that when we look deeply at our being, the repetition of our practice is the study of the repetitions of our life force, and the study of impermanence, the flow of impermanence, that all phenomena arise and pass away and are always constantly changing. And so what emptiness really means is that everything is of this nature of constant change, arising and dissolving. And it means not perceivable or describable, but also ungraspable. No thought or idea can grasp what we are. And the only thing we really know for certain is that we are. We're not a this or a that. I am not this or I'm not that. We can't find an actual entity that describes me. So Buddha deepened his study, and again, he had adopted the practice that Bodhidharma's teacher, Hanyatara, expressed, that's quoted in Kwong Roshi's book. I'm going to read it here. He says, "When I inhale, I don't dwell upon things. When I exhale, I don't pursue thoughts. Thus I breathe the sutra as it isness hundreds of thousands of millions of times." So it's the repetition, the power of repetition, the very opposite of distraction, that helps to calm and soothe the mind and heart. This is what gives us a sense that there is some place that is a refuge. A place that holds the assurance that we know we're here, that we can in all ways return to this space, and that we know how to arrive. Because looking deeply, we realize it can't be removed from us. It's ever present. It's the I that we are every moment of our life. So when we begin to adopt this practice, of not trying to grasp, not turning away, and being present, that is the offering of all of our experience. I like the phrase, offer your energy to the spirit of liberation. And that's the offering of our life, and it's also the opportunity to offer that sense of being a separate self. Offer that for the welfare of all beings. Offer the bliss. And it's also an offering to give away the bliss, and we can also offer our suffering in a way that can, it's an offering for the welfare of all beings, but it's through the acceptance of the full acceptance as much as we can, accept the way it is, don't turn away from it, but just offer it. And then the power of all beings together, Buddha said, is the power of acceptance and is the power of transformation that we can cultivate. I feel like more and more as I'm getting closer to the end of my life, I remind myself of Buddha's statement on the morning of his great enlightenment, where he said, I and all beings together attain the way, and that power of all beings together. It's an all-powerful proclamation, but it came from his heart, from that vast open heart, and from that power of compassion, observing beings and bestowing, as Buddha said in the Lotus Sutra, eyes of compassion, observing beings bestow an ocean of blessing beyond all measure. So Kuan Roshi says, seeing things as they are, little by little, through long training and long practice through your zazen, you will realize that your original mind, where the river no longer longs but is the ocean, is just like this, like that verse. I hope you will embrace this as your own experience, your own intimacy, and not just listen to it as something coming from someone else. When I inhale, I don't dwell on things. You're free of thoughts, and so much alive, vividly, joyously alive within this very life. It's so spacious, calm, clear, and bright. So Kuan Roshi was Suzuki Roshi's first Dharma heir. I think he chose a more solitary life than my first teacher, Richard Baker Roshi. I guess they were given Dharma transmission by Suzuki Roshi pretty close together. But the spirit of Kuan Roshi's teaching always seemed more alive to me when I would sit sessions with him. I had a sense of someone who really was speaking from that deep heart, open heart of that boundless compassion, exploring the nature of our essential being. What could be more important than to know the nature of that by which we know our experience? We can't know it through trying to grasp our thoughts. So, in Dogen at one point said something here. He said, Dogen suggests that we are endowed with Bodhi mind but simply aren't yet aware of it. He often talks about the evanescence of life, saying that life is fading quickly. Awareness of this should make us realize how precious our lives are. To see that we're constantly fading away should make us feel enormous gratitude for life. This is so important. We need to fully understand our evanescence, this perpetual flashing on and off of light. To me, he's talking about the light. What is the light of the life force that lights us up? And that gratitude that I felt from that guided meditation of Sister Chong Kong was really inspiring to me. And renewing our aspirations and reminding ourselves our aspiration to be with all beings and to attain enlightenment for the welfare of all beings. Right? That provides the strength and vitality to encourage us to renew our spirit of repetition again and again. And that, is like the flashing on and off of light. That is the flow of impermanence, the flow of our life force. So when we enter that, we can feel renewed. We can remind ourselves of that aspiration and the strength and vitality that we can get from practicing together as a Sangha can be renewed. And so we can offer our feelings of loss, feelings of apathy, or feelings of discouragement. Give them away and open to the vastness of the being that we are together with all beings. And I think I'm going to stop there. Thank you. We've got time for discussion. Thank you.
Hello, Shiken. Thank you for your talk. There was so much in this chapter and so much in your reflection that I'm having trouble finding a place to land. I'm just sort of welcoming the mixture and hoping that it bakes in my oven for a few days and new insights will come. That was that other analogy that he used in the chapter is, that message that our job is to just know who we are and investigate deeper. But lately things have been coming when I would read something from the Buddhist tradition. Very often there would be a connection made with similar statements from other traditions. And it just, I think it was, and here I'm drawing a blank, but I'm sure Xochi will correct me. If it was Jesus or from the Jewish scripture that when a person was asking the eternal spirit, who are you? And the answer was, I am who am. I am who am. And that's a lot of what I heard in your talk, is that we exist and we are, and we have a special nature that we have the opportunity to investigate, either alone or together or both. And we have wonderful guides to help us in this inquiry, which in my view takes a lifetime. It's like, I always feel like, throughout this, take on that, because as we change, our perception of the world changes. And but at bottom, we can be grateful that we have these parts of us that keep going and going and going without our having to worry about it or do anything about it. It's like, I am who am says, okay, here's your chance to know what I know. You already are what I am, but isn't it wonderful to realize that? So that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jishin. I was remembering, some of you may have read in the book of Exodus when Moses goes, this is in the Old Testament, he goes up on the mountain, he takes off his shoes because the Lord speaks to him from the burning bush. I like the scene in the Ten Commandments from the 50s, Cecil B. DeMille's Ten Commandments. And he's asking the Lord to help him free his people from the Roman oppression. And he asked God, who are you? And because people are going to want to know, they're going to ask me, who sent me? What should I tell them? And the Lord said, I am that I am. Tell them I am sent you. And so, and that's a focus of a practice in, it's the same spirit of Zen, but in Hindu Vedanta, the wisdom wing of Hindu practice, is focus on the I am, just that we are. We don't know what we are. I guess I did say that in the talk, didn't I? We're not a this or a that we can identify or grab onto, but we know that we are. And so that shows us that, what we want is already here. So we don't need to liberate our being, we need to recognize the nature of our being. Yeah.
Thank you for your talk, Shiken. What stood out for me was when this morning when I woke up, it must have been how I was laying right before I got out of bed, but I was just very aware of my pulse, my heartbeat. I could hear it. And I began to think how many gazillion times my heart has beaten without, my cooperation, without my permission, or, I don't have to pay attention to it. And how many times I've really missed that sound of my own heart because I just don't need to attend to it. And then I began to think about all the other things that go on in our bodies that we really don't need to attend to, but somehow started and continue until they don't. And then I thought, well, you're really squandering your time just laying there thinking about it. So I got up and made coffee and started attending. But just that comment that you had about heartbeats triggered all that. So thank you, because I appreciate that it keeps moving.
Thank you, Gato. If people could raise their voice, I could barely hear Gato, but I have to admit I'm pretty spacey and I forgot to put my hearing aids in, so I can hear, but if you can really project your voice, I can hear you better.
Yeah. Thank you for your talk. What resonated with me was what you said about the evanescence and the life flashing on and off, and in relation to repetitious things that we we're always part of, which is the temporary, everything's temporary and goes, and it doesn't last, and which is really a great way to sort of work with that, because I think it's a very difficult thing, our nature of, that everything's temporary, it's just, it's very difficult. And another thing is, a lot of us look for novelty, always looking for novelty in things, because we don't really always welcome repetition, or, even though it's just part of what our lives are, but then, it's like a kid with a new toy. sometimes back to the same, same old thing, and then it wears out, and then you're left with, with back to the same, the same routine and the same patterns and so forth. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Georgina. Yeah, we do look for. I wasn't quite sure we said. People look for something. I couldn't quite get that word. What you said they're looking for.
Novelty.
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 Yes.
Novelty. Okay. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay. I guess it's my computer too. Yeah. Well, one thing I think the spirit of Zen, accepting things as they are, the power of acceptance is really the power of transformation. The boundary of what we can accept is the boundary of our freedom. So, novelty is the nature of impermanence. Everything's always changing, so there's always new things happening. But when we're seeking for new because we're unhappy with what is, then we're always disappointed because what we find never really lasts. The happiness we get from it doesn't last. The spirit of Zen, I think, is more, we come to a place where we kind of want what we are. We are what we want, and we want what we are. And the spirit of that helps everyone. The peace and the tranquility and the joy of that helps everyone around us. And we can enjoy all the new things, but we can let them go because there's new things on the horizon without us having to, if we're just not grasping and not turning away and just welcoming what comes. As Joko Beck, the one Zen teacher we studied a while back, she said, joy is what's happening minus our opinion of it.
Thank you for your far-reaching talk. I also appreciated the reminder that our practice benefits all beings, and the encouragement, that in itself is encouragement to keep repeating it, the repetition of the practice, going in there. So that was very helpful also. Thanks again.
Thanks, Walter.
The poem, it's called The Miracle. Open yourself and release completely the grip you have on things and witness the miracle of being. Stay open and let life flow harmoniously with you, through you, as you. And then open even more until you exist no more. And life shares itself with itself and smiles at the wonderful miracle of being. That was written by Hiraku. Hiraku is a prisoner.
Beautiful. Thanks, Gary.
We are coming to the end of our time together. Does anyone else have an offering for this evening?
Thank you, Shikan, for your warm, flowing from your heart teaching today. And I smiled when you said about the repetition. Well, for 20 years, I teach yoga in Iyengar method, and I say over and over the same instructions. Thousands and thousands of times, and sometimes I say to my students, and I was saying that yesterday about the repetition, and I say, this is not my words, from BKS Iyengar himself. He was always saying, you think you know Trikonasana, but every time when you do Trikonasana, you do a new asana, new posture. time changes, your body changes, everything changes, and it's never, never the same. So it's like moment by moment, so even the repetition is not a repetition. Repeating, it's impossible 2 moments to be the same. So it's the same, I said, I'm projecting my voice on purpose. So I said 15,000 times press outer edge of your back foot down. And it's every time different pressing after. So this is the spirit of the repetition is, it's just deepens the practice, deepens the life, deepens the learning, and just taking. So, and then what you said about that not a thought, not a word can bring up only, is gonna cut the reality and fix it, we try. And so it reminds me that Korean Zen, Kwan Seung San, he always says, every time you open your mouth, you're wrong. So it helps me so much. And I took it. Every time I open my mouth, I'm wrong. So it's really helping me in life too. You know, there's it's the garment, loosens the garment.
Mm-hmm.
That it's like, what a relief.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and then about this, what is this I amness? No, yeah, that's a journey. That's a journey, but it's in this moment by moment by moment, seeing that in repetition there's no repetition. Thank you.
Yeah, very true. Thank you very much.
Well, I have one announcement. Please remember that this Saturday we are online only. I hope you all opened your email that I sent out. In that email is a link, a Zoom link to our Cloud Zendo. So I urge you to sit on Saturday as you usually would, either in your own home, or some of you come here on Saturday and sit with us. So join the Cloud Sangha, because we're 2 Zendos, but 1 Sangha, and sit with them on Saturday. We're online because I will be away. I will be, think of me on Friday. I'll be running 6.2 miles.
Disney?
At Disney, and probably very sore on Saturday. but then next Wednesday will be in person and online, so it'll be our regular schedule. So thank you very much. Now it's time for our 4 vows.